Yeah, no admin.
Or recorder.
They gave up.
Oh, you were at the big one.
Stop chewing before the pledge of allegiance, right?
It's like this a lot.
No, I've been to a lot of schools.
Okay, as soon as we get, Mr. Redmond here.
I'm ready.
This program.
Correct.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order.
Spread out.
Welcome everyone to our regular school board meeting on Monday, October 15th. Time is 7:05. If everyone would rise, pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's cool.
Thank you all. Again, welcome. Do the roll call quick. We have all members with the exception of Mr. Lixit here tonight. Was the meeting properly notified?
Yes, it was.
Okay, this time, we have an opportunity for public comment, so I don't know if we have any public comment at this time? Okay, then we will move on to our next presentation, which will be our highlight on youth, starting with our outdoor adventures class, by Mr. Bill Emery, so welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So just for the note, we're aware of this one not working, it's getting repaired on Wednesday. So, yeah, these two are working.
Greg, can I mess with you a little bit?
Yeah, cause they didn't want the minute.
So is yours displaying right?
It's on display.
It is something I did.
We'll get you up on one.
Greg, just come on up. Just come upstairs, Bill. You're part of administration. Come on. We won't take no for an answer.
Make him nervous, huh?
Yeah.
But you have to have a cupcake.
Wow, those are good.
Looking at mine.
So, we have a new class, at the high school. It's called Outdoor Adventures. I suppose I have to. You usually yell at me.
Yeah, I was just going to.
It's called Outdoor Adventures, and I gave you an outline of the activities that we do with the class. Some of which are activities, Mr. Olson, you may remember me taking some of these activities with your daughter going. Some of these are things that I've done in other classes. What I've ultimately done is taken a lot of the stuff I've done over the years and brought them together in one class. It's a class that we offer as a Phi Ed credit, and pretty happy and pretty excited about it. All but one of the pictures, including this one, all but one is taken on our trips. This is on Lake Superior, just before we go winter camping. This is the one I didn't get. So this is just, again, a list of some of the activities that we do for the class. You have a more detailed list of those that are pretty exciting. The whole point of the class is to get students to do something outside their comfort zone, whether it's rock climbing. That rock wall is at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. My intention was to go one step farther, and there's an organization out of Red Wing that I've been modeling some of my kind of overall vision or view. The ELCA, which is Environmental Learning Center out of Red Wing, they have an outdoor rock climbing area right along the Mississippi. We didn't get that far, so things are a little flexible, but we did get there. She's not that far off the ground, but there is another side of that wall which is much higher that they've reached the top. The other picture on there is us at Whale Lake, which is at the foothills of Eagle Mountain, the tallest point in Minnesota. So we're winter camping in that group. I like to get kids out of their comfort zone. One is, I really, it bothers me when people say, no, I can't, or they're scared. And really, if I can take them on an adventure that's out of their comfort zone to give them the idea that they can, and it's really not that bad, and you can survive, or you can do these things and thrive, then maybe when they get older, they won't be so shy about trying something, even in the market. My hope is that I develop people or students that want to do this for many years to come. Winter camping's one of them. The picture on the left up there is one of the shelters that were built for winter camping. And that is a group this last year. They're at the peak of Eagle Mountain. There's a monument there to display it. The gal that's down on her knees is supposed to be right above a survey marker for it. Cross-country skiing, it's also another description that I'm gonna make later today, or later tonight, on the trail, but we do some cross-country skiing. If I had classes at the middle school, used to do it many, many years ago. I'm not from the area, so I wasn't a middle school to take part in that, but Gretchen Cron had skis. She wasn't using them, so I inherited them, and now I'm using them for this class. In addition to that, I wrote a grant to get more skis, so I got $2,000 to spend on more updated skis for the trail, which we'll get to in a bit. They seem to like that quite a bit, getting out and about and doing something fun in the wintertime. So that's them making some supper, or just after supper.
So what's the cuisine?
Well, I actually have some examples or an example of that. Outdoor adventures, thriving on activities that are healthy with friends. Rock climbing wall, that's scuba diving, that's actually at the center in New Richmond. All of them, the kids had a whole lot of fun. We went trap shooting. We did this in a couple different reasons. One is I wanted them to understand trap, but one of the activities was to go turkey hunting, and they had to go through a gun safety in order to do that. And this was one way of going through part of that safety. One of the kids, Lawrence M., who's struggles sometimes in school, never touched a gun before, I think shot a 20 out of 25. So I think it was teaching, but they had a good time. The other one is we did take him turkey hunting. I had an opportunity to do some mentoring, and I took him took him turkey hunting. The blind is just behind him. That's the blind right there. And that's about where he shot the turkey. Actually, he shot 3 of them in one shot. He's supposed to only shoot one.
So whose season ended besides his?
Mine. One got up and ran away, and we went looking for it and couldn't find it. And I actually saw a couple blood spots, but after that it was gone. And well, that one was coyote food, but we got 2 turkeys out of it. So out of one shot, lucky break. Okay, that was good.
Again, the teaching, I'm sure.
No, I told them to shoot 1, not 3. So
So that's the math department's fault.
So outdoor adventures, what's next? Building a program, not just the class, but the overall scope of it. If you looked at the winter camping pictures, I had 4 alumni in that picture from kids that have gone on the trip before, winter camping. Coming back from college or coming back from where they were there. And I want more of that. I want to train leaders to come back and help me because, well, this is the group after a 20-mile hike coming out of the Highline Trail at Glacier National Park. 20 miles in one day, I'm not going to be able to keep that up. So finding help to be able to take those adventures long term, so it's beyond me, it's into the future, is really important. Training the leaders is an important aspect that I got from ELCA. The director and some of the instructors, they teach the kids how to do that, but the one-on-ones, the interpersonal skills and training are done by the kids that have been through it a few times before. So like when we did the winter camping, I taught them shelter building here at school, but then when we went out winter camping, my chaperones, my helpers, were there giving hints and suggestions about what to do and what not to do, so that was very helpful. Collecting resources, I'm a pack rat by nature, but no one should own 9 tents. I own 9 tents, so I collect stuff. Not all of them are suitable for going backpacking, but I collect resources, and one of the next things I'm gonna be, you might hear me doing, I have a canoe trailer that we modified one of my own trailers into a canoe trailer here at school, so the rack we made here. I'm gonna be asking the general public for some canoes. If you have an old canoe, you're not using it anymore, I don't wanna rent when it's just sitting out in the back not being used, so we'll be asking. And I know there's public people out there that would be willing to either lend us the canoe or say, you know, we haven't used that thing, here have it. One of the canoes we used for the canoe trip leaked more than the Titanic, so you know it couldn't be any worse than that. And then providing for those who can't.
Those are the kids that need
Water safety. Bill, I got this flat. When you said 9 tenths, I thought you meant 9 tenths, like is it a fraction? Like 9 tenths of what? And when Scott laughed, I could, 9 tenths, T-N-T-S.
I have a lot of tents. So,
I think I've only got 5 of them.
yeah.
Underachiever.
And another thing, one of the last things about this is, I wanna make sure that nobody can say no when it comes to going because they can't financially afford it. That to me is a big no-no. This is an experience you need to have. We'll find a way to make sure you can go. And so that's one of the big things about this class, this program, is making sure it's available to everyone. This trip, the outdoor adventure trip, cost about $150 for a 4-day backpacking trip. It's 2 days out, 2 days back, and 4 days in the wilderness. You can't eat cheaper than that, and we were able to pull it together. The canoe trip costs $60, and that's almost all. It's basically the fee to get in that the U.S. Forest Service requires us, and the food. We got everything else. So ultimately, we're trying to go as cheap as possible, so they know that they got the resources themselves at home to be able to do this. They don't need to go to REI or Cabela's and get the best. If they get into it, they can go buy some of that stuff. Just look at John Miles. He's pack ratting it already. He's addicted. He's the kid on the very right with the blue. So that's Outdoor Adventures. Pretty excited about it, and I'm glad you're allowing me to do this. It's quite the adventure in itself.
Do you have a list of equipment that you would be looking at or looking for?
Funny you should ask.
I might be willing to clean my basement out
There you go. This is what, I give to them when they go to the Boundary Waters. Some of these are group items. Some of these are personal items, and they're labeled as such, so you can see them. The one that goes to, the backpacking trip rather than a canoe trip. They're not much different. Obviously, there's some adjustments because you are, everything goes on your back. Winter camping, more adjustments because you're dealing with sub-zero temperatures. The coldest temperature I've been on so far is 10 below. It's not horrible. What I learned my skills from, he said he's been out 30 below. I don't want to do that. But it is passable. Another one is one of the activities I require the kids to make me food. Sounds selfish, I get it. But they have to prepare a meal that they would take backpacking. And I literally bring the camp stove, so they have to make it outside with a camp stove. So they do the prep beforehand, they do the meal work there as if they were camping, and we sit outside and enjoy at least a spoonful of whatever they make. Here's one of them that they make.
Thank you.
Little nicer than lentil bean soup with soybean ham.
So when we go on these extravagant trips, I don't usually, I like to test things ahead of time. They bring a tent, they're required to show me the tent set up and we test it ahead of time. They go winter camping, I need to see all their gear before they go and we look at it, so it's got approval to it. Meals kind of the same way, I don't like to go someplace without it planned out and tested. A lot of the meal planning, I don't vary very much. Yes, some of it's kind of bland, I survive a lot on summer sausage and the Boundary Waters trip. But you know, by the time they're done with the winter camping, they think my summer sausage and mushroom soup tastes like the best thing they've ever had, so work them hard enough, they'll not argue with anything.
So do you have kids that have trouble coming up with these things?
Sometimes, and that's why I borrow out a lot. I had a couple freshmen this last year, and they're not in that picture. They're in the winter camping one where they couldn't get the backpack, which is common, or they couldn't get a warm enough sleeping bag. There's sometimes, and so I come up with it. Some of my alumni, Brett and Maya Briggs, you guys might remember. They're faithful alumni and are collectors now themselves. Jonathan and Tiana Frederick. Ty went on a trip with us, the winter camping trip. Faithful collectors of camping equipment. I have my own resources from way back. The guy that I follow after has got, well, it's a granary, but it's a storage room filled with camping equipment, and it's amazing, and I wish I had that, but it's old. And if I need something, I can go to him again.
How many are in this class, Bill?
25 are in the class, or 22 next year, I think. Last year there was 30 signed up, with 30 on the waiting list, and it came down to 25. 3 of them that were in the class didn't know what the class is about and stuck it out because they had to have a FIAD credit. Well, they didn't wanna go on the Boundary Waters trip. They didn't wanna go on this other trip. And so, I do have alternatives. They're not pleasant. I'm gonna be honest, I want them to go on the trips. And, I'll make it financially possible for them to go if they have the desire to go. If they don't, then they have the desire not to do it and do something else. Thanks to the Boy Scouts of America and their educational worksheets, they have alternatives if they don't wanna go with them. But, yeah. Those three did a lot of worksheets.
Merit badges are a punishment now?
Hey, you get a badge for finishing those things, I'm sure.
I still would agree.
Okay.
Bill, the one thing I don't think a lot of kids get, and I don't know how you convey that to the kids who are not getting into it, is how rewarding this experience can be. You know, I've had two from my household that have gone on trips of yours, and still, you know, Abigail, my oldest, you know, she graduated 4 years ago. Still to this day says, their glacier trip was one of the highlights of her high school career. I absolutely loved it. She said it was a lot of hard work. She said we walked a lot, but still, you can see it in her face when she talks about it. I mean, she smiles about everything she talks about it. It was one of the highlights. And I don't know if a lot of the kids understand, and they might just see this and say, okay, well, we're gonna go eat MREs and sleep in the snow. I don't know if they truly understand how rewarding a lot of this stuff can be, and I don't know how you get that message out there more, how differently you can do it. I don't know, but I think we're missing some of the kids because they're not fully maybe informed on exactly what the experiences are.
That's a good statement, but there's a this picture here is gonna help me a lot. And talking the stories, and those kids, there's quite a few still around that went on that trip. They're sophomores now. My son's a sophomore. He was been on that specific trip twice already. But I mean, if you look at the kids in that group, they're smiling, they're happy, and they come back and talk about it. And that's how I convey it. I could talk till I'm blue in the face, but people already know I'm a little crazy. So they don't go by what I say, although, you know, they tend to trust what I say, when they get into class. It's what they say about the trip, really what matters. I took, Ayla, Triana, and their dad, to, up north to, the Brule State Forest. And that was the coldest night out there. And then we went to the ice caves, and those kids, that's where I got that's where I got, Mayan Briggs hooked. So it's just one, I just need to get one trip in them, or one activity in them. And that's one of the reasons why the Boundary Waters trip, for example, I read the Boundary Waters journal. And sometimes in the journal they talk about, what should you do for your first trip? And my response is not like theirs. I want them to enjoy the scenery. I like them to get up and have a good meal. I like them to put down their gear and then struggle with the canoe and the portage. I don't want them to want to kill me the first day, although maybe wonder if we're ever gonna stop paddling is okay. But I like to get them out away. 2 years ago, I took them to the Boundary Waters, and all day we were paddling on a motorized course. So we were paddling and boats were going, and they had enough halfway through the trip because they were sick and tired of watching motors go by. Why do we have to paddle? They're going by in a motor. I won't take that direction again. I'll go around another way so I don't have to watch the motors go by. But it's little things like that that can hold on to.
My testament to that is we watched them when I was in the Boundary Waters as a kid. We watched them all sail by in these long trains of canoes. Well, we finally passed one of them when the whole train jackknifed, swamped about half the canoes in the middle of the lake.
Yeah,
But I'd like to extend on what David's saying, we can look back with pride on certain accomplishments that once you accomplish it, nobody can ever take that away from you.
Right.
And it fortifies you for that next challenging situation. If you thought you weren't going to be able to and you never applied yourself into it, that you actually ended up, I don't think I can go camping in the Boundary Waters. I don't think I can paddle for 3 days. I don't think I can hike 20 miles, and then you go do it. That is an accomplishment that can never be taken away from you. And it fortifies you for other moments that you will face adversity in your life. Anna just ran a half marathon in Glacier this summer, first time she's ever run a half marathon, and she's decided to do 5,900 feet and 1,200 feet of elevation change. No one will ever take that 13 miles away from her.
Well, there are some experts to listen to and others not. As I can remember, I think we were on our 4th or 5th year of taking the Cub Scouts on a winter camping adventure, when we were informed by some of the experts at the Scout office that you shouldn't ever take kids younger than 10 or 11 years old out on a camping trip. Well, we had done it for several years already with no problems.
But David, I don't know if that is where you're going, that when Abby looks back.
That's the thing, is I don't think the kids understand, the experiences that you're offering with some of these things that you're doing. I don't think a lot of the younger kids, well, they're all young, I don't think the kids understand how rewarding those experiences will likely end up being. Is it for everybody? No, there's always gonna be somebody that probably doesn't have a great time. But most of those kids are gonna come out of that and think, wow, man, am I glad I did that.
Well, the fact that you have a waiting list speaks volumes to how the word's
Yeah.
getting out among the kids, and some aren't ever gonna wanna do it for
no,
personal
well,
reasons or because an adult told them it was a good idea.
well, their idea of camping is in the motorhome.
And Tim, this is where, when we think about as a district, what equals student achievement? When you think about standards-based assessment and reporting, it's that level 4 of being able to apply what I've learned into complex unknown situations. And so you take time to teach in a classroom, but you really are the reality of standards-based assessment, because either you're gonna eat pretty darn good, or you're gonna learn, I'm never making that again in that manner because I didn't, right? Either way, it's gonna be a learning experience.
Right.
But it's in that application. And Scott, I know your kids, my kids, we've had the opportunity through Lions to do international travel. There are so many opportunities that take a courageous moment or a courageous invitation to say, well, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Why not give it a go? And Bill, I really admire you for enabling that opportunity for kids to say, I'll give it a go. And these are the types of classes I think that lead our students out to, as you said, go to that point where I am uncomfortable, and then find out that, yeah, I actually do have the wherewithal to accomplish it.
Speaking of uncomfortable, picture right here. If you go back about a mile, maybe not even that, on that trail that's behind him, we met up with a grizzly bear on the trail. The trail,
Applying what you've learned to complex unknown situations.
right, trail goes up like this and down like this, huge herd of people behind me, big grizzly bear in front of me. What do you do? Well, we found out earlier this year by a bear expert, Cliff Jacobson, who writes a lot of books on wilderness travel and has taken many trips. He's guided trips for the Science Museum, Minnesota Science Museum. Was his gig. He's out of River Falls. He's come to my class twice now, and he taught the kids how to deal with bears. Ultimately is get bigger than them. And so it went up like this, a lot of trees, but I had everybody get up into the trees. I'm hauling people into the rocks, into the trees, and then I'm standing up there on the rock holding pepper spray. well, I didn't have to deal with that anymore. He must have just gotten a little leery out of the strange movements we were making, but we actually saw 7 grizzlies on that trip. Now, when your daughter went, we didn't see a single one.
Yeah, I heard about the grizzlies from Dylan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they won't forget it, and they know how to deal with grizzlies. Right there where they're standing, a conservation warden walks by with a shotgun going after that grizzly that we saw a while back. So, he never saw it, yeah, that's quite the trip.
So Bill, has word spread now that students understand that, you know, there's camping trips and other things involved, so are you getting as much pushback about that?
I need to do more advertising. I wanna do more. I want everybody in the school to wanna take my class. I want a waiting list, not of 30, but of 400. When we start looking at the ELC, they have 100 kids wanting to take this class. But I want them to choose to wanna go, not just down the Namakaga, which is still a great trip, but it's local. That's a junior high trip to me. I want them to wanna go rough it. I want them to wanna go how far out they can go. And that's gonna take some time. That's stepping stones. I got a couple kids, well, I don't know if Dylan's up for it, but the other ones would be go through any amount of torture to go on a trip. Any direction I wanna go. In fact, John set up part of the class, and you can see it on there, is plan your own trip. He wants to go to Central Alaska. I can't afford that. Not gonna do that. But I mean, that's the direction that I want kids to start thinking. Well, what is the possibilities? I don't want them to say, oh, I can. I mean, yeah, I've been to Willow River State Park and camped there. That was fun. That's not enough. You're missing a whole lot of this world if that's the only farther that you go is a state park.
I think one of the things that this class, especially these trips that you've been doing for years now, but this class does is I think this probably does a more thorough, realistic job of pushing these kids outside their comfort zone. That's not to say that I was not uncomfortable sitting in Algebra 2, but there was nothing in Algebra 2 that made me as uncomfortable as spending my first night out in the woods with just a tent, and that was it. I saw a picture years ago, and it explains, I think, something like this class perfectly. It had a circle, and inside of it said your comfort zone. And way outside the circle, it had an X, and it said, this is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
This, I think, is it's not that kids can't be uncomfortable or push themselves in a classroom, but this, I think, shoves the uncomfortable part right in their face, saying, you gotta deal with this. What are you gonna do? So I appreciate all the stuff you're doing with this stuff. I think it's good.
And there's a population that won't ever get to Willow River. So maybe an intro to outdoor is even another step to tag the ones who this is a little daunting for, but they need a push just to
Right.
get off the couch.
Well, I did allude to the idea of middle school trip, and yes, I'm following Christian a lot. He used to do that, I guess.
Do you have any trouble rounding up adult chaperones to help out on these trips?
I haven't yet. It used to be troubles with females, getting a female to go with. But I don't anymore. And I don't suspect my age group is around children-bearing years. Mayan will go on any trip I go on if she can. She was upset she couldn't because she had a fairly young baby. So she says, "You can handle winter camping yet?" Not even 2. So I mean, they're out there. I'm not shy about asking.
You're using St. Croix School for your Discover School?
I'm the St. Croix, yes, St. Croix.
Cause they have a partnership with the St. Croix Academy, a charter school, and they, every other year, they take a scuba trip. And he's put together cheap packages of gear for them and training stuff. He also supports a Boy Scout troop that takes trips every year. They take a scuba trip someplace every year.
Yep, I actually have my advanced certification too, so I'd love to do that, if I can get the numbers. That would cost a lot of money, even though we get some discounts, but it's still, airfare is still some of that difficulty, and I won't give up the others to be able to do that, so.
Okay,
Good
any other,
stuff.
any other questions for Bill?
Cool.
Make sure you ask,
Thank you,
make sure you ask us if you need something with it too.
because I will check my basement because I've got a lot of surplus camping equipment. I've graduated well past my tent and I enjoy my RV now. I spent 20 some years in a tent, so.
I understand your statement, I have a Griswold deal, getting there is much more enjoyable, once I'm there though, I have to get out of that thing.
But between the family and the Boy Scouts, we spent a lot of days in tents. You know, I've just being on canoe trips in the middle of nowhere, to me, I define that middle of nowhere as 500 miles north of Winnipeg, so.
So in terms of askins, one of the upfront statement that I made earlier was, I'm gonna be asking Hammond, Roberts School District, about canoes. And so there's things that I'm gonna be trying to pass through the school in terms of trying to get that together. Other than that, I'm picky, when it comes to the equipment, and, when your life depends on the stove, I kinda want a good stove, and so, I test them. I got one from my friend who has the room full of stuff, an old Coleman stove. They're about $65 now, you can still buy them, but, I had to get it to work, and, that stuff makes me nervous if I don't know where it's coming from. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And,
Well, you're next, Bill.
Yeah, you're next.
Stay up.
Alright, the next one is about the actual trail that goes around the high school. I wore the cross-country jacket tonight because it's a good jacket, but also, I wanted you to know that the cross-country trail is more than just for our sport. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. It started off, Bill Stiesel designed the course, Glenn Webb put the course in, and they designed it as assuming he did it for twofold, a hiking trail and cross-country trail. There used to be an outdoor classroom out there, an actual mowed area. I kinda thought that was ridiculous to go out to a place that's mowed when there's a lot of mowed areas around the building. So I told them quit mowing it, we'll still go out there and look at stuff. That's the trail. That was the first 5K route that we had, and we've improved since then. The trail is used all year round, not only for school events. That's a pretty old picture, those kids that graduated, right?
Yep.
And they were young in that, I think they were sophomores then. We used it for orienteering, or still do, for wildlife class or environmental science class. I use it for skiing, for outdoor adventures class, but the community uses it a lot. They are constantly out there walking. I'm guessing maybe some of you have been on the trail. But I'm looking at it as we're not hitting it far enough, we're not doing enough, and I have ideas. One of the ideas is, with Hunter Megenberg here and myself, we built a groomer for the trail. It's based off an actual snowmobile groomer. Just behind that back tire on that four-wheeler is a ram, an electric ram, that adjust the height of that groomer, sort of go up and down depending on the snow depth. Actually stole off one of the buses from the bus races. And we made a groomer for the trail. The cross-country Fund 60 account bought a $250 snowmobile that we're gonna get reconditioned to pull that groomer. The Mahindra got stuck in 8 inches of snow, so it won't work. And so we'll be grooming the trail. The idea behind that is to make it a ski trail, along with what's going on. Those are just pictures of the possibilities with it. One picture is supposed to be I think the daylight one is 9 Mile Park, and if you've been around the state a little bit, 9 Mile County Park is in Marathon County, just south of Wausau. It is an amazing county park. It is filled with miles of ski trails. You can see 2 ski tracks in there, and that's eventually what we're gonna do with the groomers, to put a ski tracks on it and groom the trails. My thought behind it and why I'm pushing this or talking about this a little bit is I believe people will come to this district not only for the education, but the environment that they will live in. If they have ski trails to participate in during the winter time, they don't have to go to another town to do it, they can do it here. It promotes this town more. To go one step farther, most people, because it's a bedroom community, don't get back in time for it to be light enough. If we light the trail, they'll be able to use it more often. Not only is it more enjoyable to go out, but then it's also less security issue for them trying to do it in the dark, which skiing in the dark is really actually pretty fun. But again, trying it new. Last year, cross-country team went to Hayward for their sectional meet. Where we ran was a lit trail. They had light poles, big, huge pole lights every 50 yards, and they lit their trail for skiing. I've been looking at getting some help with that. River Falls High School has that solar panel just outside their high school. Energy Concepts is one of the engineering folks out of Hudson that helped put that together. Paul Steiner, who sons now own Steiner Electric, is the ones that put it together. Paul and I go way back. He worked for my dad when I was about that tall, while he was in college at River Falls. Talking to Paul, and getting a hold of Energy Concepts about putting together solar lights around the facility. So it would run, we wouldn't have to flip the switch, it would turn on. To promote the idea of using the trails. People use it all the time during the summer, they love it in the fall. I'm trying to provide it for the winter time. This would be another avenue for it. I put down a list of people that might be interested in being part of this. I said it's a magnet to bring people to the community. I think the city of Hammond, and other people like the Hammond Lions might want to be part of it. So, I'm not asking for anything today. What I'm telling you is I'm going to be asking. And I think it's a good push not only for the district, because we can use it that way, but for the community itself. And I was hearing rumors about possibilities for what we're doing at the high school and beyond, and long-range planning. This is something that's in my head. I don't want you to miss. Because people ask me, or I follow cross-country enough and get to other schools and their trails. We have the best trail. They always like coming to run on our course. We're at home, it's beautiful. But I think we need to keep reminding ourselves that needs to be protected to some extent and utilized to some extent. I was talking to Mr. Green just a month ago, maybe, about the tree growth and the vision of, do we want to keep it growing like it is because the box elders are going to take over, or do we want to stunt their growth somehow, mechanically, and do something like that? I had been approached, I would say 4 years ago, by the Department of Natural Resources. He wanted to put it back into a prairie. I wasn't willing to do that. One of my favorite parts of that trail is overhanging trees. Yes, I know it's terrible trees, but it's something. I wanted to do a combination, you know, have some tree areas, but have some prairie areas. And he must have been a strong prairie guy because he never called me back. But it's a vision, and I'd like to push it. So I'm talking to you about it now, but I'll be pushing it later.
Any questions for Bill with regards to trail? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that too.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks for your hard work. Okay. Let's move on.
Thank you.
See how quickly we can move through the agenda here. The next item on the agenda is our comments from board members and superintendent. We'll start off with the staff appreciation bagel breakfast. So.
You wanna start?
Go ahead.
249 bagels, $342.83, and very favorable comments. So I tell you, I think that there's national holidays, and Staff Bagel Day has become one of them in this district. So Buddy certainly appreciates our business. He has grandchildren in the district now, one in middle school and a couple in the elementary, and he's the one that owns the Brugger's in Hudson, and he follows us all the time. He loves Central. His kids are Central kids, and he goes way back with Dan Wall, but he really appreciates the business, and I tell you what, they knock it out of the park, and they've gotten better at doing it every year for us. And Pam, I think you've got it down to a science now, so thank you for that. Keep that email, it worked perfectly this year, and just really nice responses. The one feedback piece is, can we find some gluten-free? I asked Buddy about it. He says, yes, we have a gluten-free bagel in Brugger's. It tastes somewhere between roof shingle and used cardboard, but they are working on a gluten-free within Brugger's. So if not, we'll maybe just have to find some other appropriate gluten-free add-on. I don't even know how many in the district are gluten-free, so. I don't know if you heard anything else from inside.
No, you said it well, other than just wanna reiterate, yeah, that everybody appreciates it. I know you personally pay for it, but then you take, I think, the morning off, and if not the whole day, and go around, and I know your time is much appreciated, but yeah, just the thought goes a long ways. Staff appreciates it very much, and you picked a great day as well, when entire staff is in the district.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that, John.
Well, it's everyone that does it, so.
So, that sounds like it was well received, so they did hear it. Okay, next item was Board's Appreciation Week, which was October 7th through 13th, which was last week. And hopefully everybody's had a chance to have a cupcake, and there's some coffee and lemonade back there, but help yourself. Cupcakes are fantastic, and I guess I noticed the loaves of bread there. I'm assuming those are from Panther Catering also.
They are, yep. I believe we did the bread and the packaging. Pam did the card that goes with it.
So that's much appreciated. So thank you, Pam, and I want to thank the Panther Catering and Courtney for their efforts. Cupcakes are fantastic, so it's much appreciated.
Yeah, and I, just on behalf of the community, wanna thank everyone for your service, because it truly is community service. You do for the community, but most importantly for the kids, so it is appreciated. You are appreciated.
I don't think there's any of us here that are doing it for the the money, so it's all, everybody here is, looking for their service to the community, so thank you all for your efforts. Okay, other comments from board members?
So I had a chance on Monday, it was a bank holiday last Monday, and so I took the time to spend it the morning in the elementary school and the afternoon in the middle school. And I would strongly invite, encourage all of you, if you have not been in the schools lately, just don't go walk the hallway, set up some time. Shelley and Lindsay over at the elementary, and then Chance at the middle school, they had a plan. I had a chance to visit with them. I got a chance to see EduClimber, some of the work tools that they're using to track the different standards and how they see the assessments and the data that they have going into their PLCs. And I had written a note back to them and said, here's the 10 things I learned, and without taking too much time, I'd just like to highlight a couple of things. And really, if you've not been in the school during the school day lately, go. It really refocused me on why we do what we do as board members. So anyway, they have developed tools and they're using them to efficiently and effectively track student progress. It's just cool stuff. We hear them talk about PBIS a lot. Two real examples of that I would